You bolt upright in the dark. The clock says 2:14 a.m. Panic sets in. You reach for your phone, immediately calculating exactly how exhausted you will be at work tomorrow. Current diagnostic criteria label this nocturnal wakefulness as sleep maintenance insomnia, framing a historically common waking window as a medical failure. For centuries, however, humans treated this exact midnight window as an intellectual resource. Monks, philosophers, and laborers deliberately utilized the dark, quiet hours to pray, write, and perform their most creative work. This chart shows pre-industrial rest. Notice the top timeline. Sleep was strictly divided into a first sleep after dusk and a second sleep until dawn. Separating them was a 2-hour waking interval. People used this time to tend fires, meditate, or analyze dreams. The midnight waking hour carried no medical stigma. It provided a highly anticipated, culturally integrated space for human genius, completely isolated from the demands of the daylight world. To determine if this habit was driven by actual biology rather than just a lack of electricity, psychiatrist Thomas Ware conducted a massive chronobiology study. In 1992, he plunged modern participants into 14 hours of continuous darkness every night for a month, mimicking the winter schedule of pre-industrial Europe. By the fourth week, the participants' modern consolidated 8-hour sleep blocks had fractured. Their bodies naturally and uniformly reverted to the ancient bimodal pattern, waking up peacefully for an hour or two in the middle of the night before returning to sleep. This chart shows hormone levels during that exact dark waking period. Blood assays revealed a massive surge in prolactin. Prolactin is a hormone typically associated with nursing mothers and milk production, but in this context, it acts directly on the brain. High nighttime prolactin aggressively suppresses the human stress response. It induces a tranquil, highly meditative cognitive state where anxiety vanishes, allowing abstract ideas to effortlessly emerge and intertwine. This tranquil, prolactin-rich interval represents a dormant physiological capacity, a specific brain state that only activates during the prolonged darkness of the pre-industrial night. The eradication of this midnight interval correlates directly with a single technological intervention, the mass commercialization of the incandescent light bulb. For millions of years, the human circadian cycle anchored itself to the sun. Artificial light effectively extends the day, tricking the brain's master biological clock into perceiving continuous daylight. This constant light exposure suppresses the secretion of melatonin, the hormone responsible for facilitating sleep onset, completely erasing the biological trigger for that early first sleep. Parallel to electrification was a massive sociological disruption. As populations migrated during the Industrial Revolution, human labor became tethered to the rigid operation of capital-intensive factory machinery in massive new urban centers. Synchronized labor required synchronized rest. The 8-hour workday left zero margin for the midnight waking interval or a midday siesta. To maximize continuous wage-earning hours, the fluid, multiphasic sleep of our ancestors was forcefully compressed into a single, mandatory block. The modern consensus prescribing exactly 8 uninterrupted hours of nocturnal unconsciousness ignores human evolutionary history. This schedule is a highly specific economic construct designed to serve industrial machinery rather than human neurochemistry. The legacy of this industrial system still dictates our 9-to-5 schedules. It enforces a uniform biological standard that completely ignores the extreme genetic diversity in human sleep timing. An individual's innate preference for sleep and wakefulness is called their chronotype, and it is heavily determined by their DNA. Roughly 15% of the population fits the wolf or evening chronotype. Their genetic makeup naturally delays the onset of melatonin, pushing their biological window for sleep deep into the night. When these evening types are forced to awaken early for a corporate job or school bell, they suffer from social jet lag. Social jet lag is a permanent state of biological stress caused by the chronic misalignment between a person's internal clock and externally imposed schedules. Operating in this constant friction physically degrades the body. Studies show chronic social jet lag decreases functional connectivity in the hippocampus, crippling memory consolidation. Metabolically, it disrupts appetite-regulating hormones like leptin and orexin, driving caloric excess and drastically increasing the risk of type 2 diabetes. Society culturally marginalizes night owls as undisciplined. By rigidly enforcing early morning routines, we actively and physically damage the psychiatric stability and cardiovascular health of our most late-oriented minds. To survive within these rigid constraints, chronobiologists recommend a practice called chronohygiene. Chronohygiene is a methodology for intentionally manipulating your environment to protect your endogenous genetic rhythm. There are 2 absolute rules to this practice. First, you must expose your retinas to bright, full-spectrum outdoor sunlight within the first hour of waking to rapidly halt melatonin production and clear away sleep inertia. Second, you must aggressively avoid blue wavelength artificial light for 2 hours before bed to protect the integrity of your sleep onset. And if you do find yourself awake at 2 a.m., you can reframe the experience. Your body isn't failing. It is simply attempting to execute an ancient biological script in an era that no longer accommodates it. Instead of staring at the ceiling in a state of panic or reaching for the harsh glare of your smartphone, embrace the interval. Turn on a dim, warm light. Use that quiet hour to read, meditate, or write down the thoughts intertwining in your prolactin-soaked brain. True sleep optimization requires looking past the industrialized 8-hour block of unconsciousness. It requires reclaiming the biological sovereignty of your human body clock and finally letting the midnight brain state do its work.